Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Coleman, and I'm the Social and Digital Manager at Tourism Northern Ireland. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon for the second of two webinars today about growing online sales through TXGB. Tourism Northern Ireland undertook a 12-month pilot of a platform called Tourism Exchange Great Britain, or TXGB, in 2022. And as we're about to find out, TXGB connects tourism suppliers with distributors, helping businesses become bookable online for the first time, possibly, access new routes to market, or manage their commission costs. Following the success of that pilot, we are now rolling the platform out more broadly, and we plan to onboard at least 200 accommodation and visitor experience businesses to TXGB during 2023. We're joined this afternoon again by Dan Simmons, who led the session this morning. Dan is Head of Growth at TXGB. And Dan's going to give us an overview of what the platform is and the benefits for you associated with onboarding. We'll talk a little bit about our journey to date and how all of you can hopefully get involved as we move forward with this project over the next 12 months and beyond. We'll obviously open it up for discussion and questions at the end. And please feel free to drop any questions into the chat as we go through the presentation, and we'll pick those up as we get out the other side. Dan's going to talk for 15 or 20 minutes, hopefully, and give us a good overview of TXGB, and then we can get into some questions and answers, hopefully. So Dan, at that point, I'm going to pass over to you, and you can take us through your presentation.
Thanks very much, Paul, and thanks everyone for joining today. Really great to give an update and give an intro into Tourism Exchange platform, and hopefully give you an idea of how we can work together and support you as a business in Northern Ireland. So and my role at TXGB is Head of Growth, as Paul mentioned, and that's really just about how we look at creating more value to our partners and to tourism businesses across the platform. And so today I'm going to cover, kind of broadly, what is the TXGB system, who is it for, a bit of an overview of the opportunities that are available at this point and what our plans are for the future. We'll talk specifically around bookings via Discover Northern Ireland website, and also touch on how we're progressing with local destination sites, and then also talk about how you can get involved, how you can connect to the platform, and some other tools we have available for certain businesses. So I suppose just to start, in terms of what our purpose and our goal is with the TXGB platform and in partnership with Tourism Northern Ireland, ultimately we're looking to support tourism businesses across the country by opening more opportunities for you to partner with more sales channels, and ultimately get in front of as many bookers as possible. And the reason that's important, and the reason why TXGB is is seen as necessary here, is because the tourism technology landscape of property management systems, of channel managers, of booking technology is a really kind of diverse and fragmented market place. So we looking at the attendee list today, we can see many different systems, over 20-30 different systems in place across just the businesses that have registered their interest in this webinar, and it gives you a really great sample size of the or representative view of the challenges, and because of that, it makes it quite difficult for routes to market to get access to your product and to use an API driven system to access live inventory, where they can get a good amount of product to make that work. for them. So in centralizing that connectivity, we can help with innovation, help create competition, give you more options, and look at across that domestic tourism, across travel trade, across inbound, and and everything in between. So and a big part of that is obviously working with and partnering with your destination websites. So we'll cover a bit more on that as well. And then finally, I suppose, just in terms of the residual value of this, is that we can really then power also the TNI team with some really great data insights in terms of the bookers and who's coming to the region, and information that can help inform planning and strategy moving forward. As Paul mentioned, we've recently completed a kind of trial period, which we're really pleased about, and has been a great success. And of course, just to, I suppose, recognise that we're also doing this in Visit Wales. We partnered with Visit Wales last year, and we've been working with Visit Britain and Visit England for a couple of years now, and that kind of collaborative position and bringing everybody together on the same journey is really helping drive the initiatives within the platform. So I suppose this diagram just looks to try and help explain where TXGB sits in the value chain. So we are that kind of central marketplace platform. It's really just the how rather than anything else. We are working to make you get your product in front of more visitors by making it easier for you to access channels, and we're doing that through connecting booking technology and booking channels to our central system to ultimately create a one-to-many kind of spider's web of connectivity. And this is not to replace the existing systems you have. This is all about complementing your current setup. So, we recognise as well that this is not just an accommodation challenge. This is a challenge across the whole marketplace of industry. So, our starting point is that we're supporting accommodation to visitor attractions, experiences, events, but we're also looking at transport and retail and restaurants and other opportunities to work with different I suppose verticals within the sector that ultimately creates more value because we're bringing all those different pieces of the puzzle together. So I suppose just to reference and acknowledge the fact that every tourism supplier is different and everyone's needs are different. Coming into this call, your position in terms of your online bookability or your starting point in terms of how you work with third-party channels will be very different to other businesses on the call. So we will and we can work very closely with everybody that's interested in the platform to really help position this in the eyes of you and your needs. But recognizing that the TXGB platform is an entirely optional service. It's open and agnostic. It is to work alongside your existing systems and not to replace necessarily anything that you already have in place. So I suppose just to start with a few of the opportunities that are available on the platform, we do have connections to most of those big kind of I suppose globally recognized online travel agents, and we can centralize connectivity to those, recognizing a lot of property systems already have direct connections to many of those. We also have new and unique opportunities. And there are so many more in our pipeline of quite exciting things that are coming down the track. We've been able to enable kind of unique options like the World Snooker Tour was a kind of really niche example, but it was a fan travel campaign for snooker tournaments that happened, and one was in Belfast. That was a good example of something slightly different, and obviously we partner with other kind of, I suppose, niche or not always available for your system brands like Away with the Kids and some others. So that list will continue to grow, but alongside that we're also looking at how we can enable more direct bookings, and we do that through a nice hybrid of sharing your live inventory to partners, but allowing them to offer your own checkout effectively. So I'll explain more in a second on actually how that works, but that's how we've partnered with the discovernorthernIreland.com website, and also, you know, conversations we've started to have and continue to have with a number of the councils in the region and DMOs. There are some listed there of examples of partnerships that we've already started to establish, and there are obviously others that we're looking to bring on in time as we can. And so I suppose just a bit more on what that looks like in terms of operationally getting involved in those sorts of options. We have a simple dashboard that you can opt in to channels, so you can link your booking technology to TXGB, pop onto our dashboard and tick the right box effectively to share your inventory to the channels that you'd like to partner with. One of those is discovernorthernIreland.com, and that will allow then Paul and his team to list your live availability against your listing on the Discover website. And what that's great for is enabling you to actually share your live availability, so that the Discover website can now have a live inventory search for availability when anyone is coming to Northern Ireland or moving around the country. So, you know, at the moment, the accommodation search is based on location and categories, but of course, if I'm coming to the region and I want to know what's available and when for my dates and for the number of people, you know, it's tough if the live availability search doesn't exist. And so, you know, this is going to level up that feature, and you know, we know that sharing your live availability to the DNI website will be a game changer in that regard. It also means we can convert bookings on the website rather than expecting consumers to drop out to your website, and that's good for conversion. And we know the modern consumers wants to have as few clicks as possible to make a booking. And importantly, this is a 0% commission channel. So we'll talk about fees involved with TXGB more broadly as we go through the presentation. But in terms of, you know, a cost to serve for the Discover Northern Ireland website, there are no kind of commissions owed or payable to Discover. So I suppose finally on that point, to actually enable the booking, we've partnered with Stripe. Stripe is a payment processor that many of you be aware of, and many of you probably already have Stripe accounts. If you want to be involved here and take bookings on the Discover website, then you would need to link a Stripe account so you can take secure payment and pass that through to your bank accounts. Paul, I know you're keen to inject at this point and talk a bit more about the Discover opportunity there.
Thanks, Dan. Yeah, Tourism Northern Ireland undertook a project in 2020 to redevelop the Discover Northern Ireland website, and we migrated to a different platform and brought that website up in July of 2020. This piece around bookability and conversion was something that was very central to our roadmap and our thinking around the future direction of the site. And we worked very closely with Visit Britain and Visit England to understand the journey that they had been on with TXGB, and that really pulled into focus the opportunity for us to work with Dan and the team to enable bookability and conversion from the site. I mentioned at the outset that we undertook a pilot project for 12 months, and during that pilot we onboarded a balance of experience providers and accommodation businesses, and within the accommodation sector we had quite a broad representation of catering, B&Bs and hotels, and really we found a number of success stories. But as Dan said, the key piece really is how we work with you to tailor the TXGB offering depending on where you already are in your sales and distribution journey. So for example, and I think Dan might touch on this as we go forward, we were able to identify businesses that were at a very, very early stage of that journey, who potentially had a website but not a booking engine, or weren't distributing through third parties, and we were able to create pathways for them to do that. At the other end, we were able to work with some hotel partners to become bookable through Discover Northern Ireland and drive incremental bookings through that website. And I think, as Dan said, the key point there, Tourism Northern Ireland are firmly of the view that Discover Northern Ireland is a 0% commission channel. So we will not charge commission on any sales through our website. Dan will talk a little bit more about cost as we get into it, but it's important, I think, to make that point that this is not about Tourism Northern Ireland earning any commission.
Yeah, great point. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so I suppose the next point, and one of the key pieces of the puzzle here is, how do you connect your business? So we obviously are connecting to a number of property management systems and channel managers, and we are focusing on building that network as quick as we can, and we'll connect to, we're keen to connect to all of the major booking systems that exist in the market. Recognize that not every system that's important to businesses on the call is on the list yet, and in some cases that's because it's on the roadmap. In other cases it's because we are waiting on a system to complete the integration, because in some cases it's self-managed and they would need to do that. So but in all cases we are really, really keen to get all the important systems on the platform and create these opportunities for everybody in the region. You can see on there that we do have quite a lot of the major systems though, and actually very recently we've completed the Avivo and Guestline integrations, which we know are kind of well used in the region as well. So well, that's a journey we're on, and we expect to complete as many systems as we can as quickly as possible. So I suppose just as a follow on to that, and how that you can also get access to TXGB, either if you are in one of two scenarios, that your system isn't already connected to the platform, and I recognise that isn't the easiest approach from an accommodation perspective, because of course what we're doing here is trying to reduce the risk of double booking and managing one central diary, etc. So if you are using a system for your reservations that isn't on the list, the TX load option might not be something that you can handle, but it is there as an option if you wanted to share inventory and get bookings through some of our partner channels. We'll always, if you are looking to connect and you've not got a system at all, or you've not got online booking, we'll work with you to talk through the different options that are available. So if you're a self-catering property and you're not online bookable yet, we'll give you advice on the systems that are connected to us that might be a good fit for you, and vice versa on B&Bs and so on. But if you're at the starting point and you like to trial with a simple system, then we have TX Load tool that is available as a free service to use. It has its limitations, but it's certainly something that's worth a trial if you're just starting out here. And like anything with TXGB, because there are no commitments in terms of length of contract or upfront costs, or no monthly fees or subscription costs, it's very much a pay-as-you-go service. You're able to kind of test and learn and trial with these things. So hopefully you'll see value in doing that. And I suppose just to add to that, from a TX Load perspective, if you did decide to use that tool, we can also activate your own website, and give you booking pages that you can link to on your own website and brand those very easily. here's a good example of a business in the region that is using TX Load and been able to, you know, be a great case study for us during that pilot phase. And if you don't have a website, you can also use that on like social media pages or on Facebook, or, you know, whatever works for you. So that's an option. And so I suppose, just to summarize those points, you know, this is all about helping you get access to more customers without creating additional admin. We know that there are a lot of connect channels that we will still need to connect to, and it's about understanding more from what the needs are of local businesses, and, you know, we'll endeavour to bring them onto the platform as quickly as possible. We're really focused on and excited about supporting destination websites and making them bookable, and, you know, and helping with campaigns and conversion on the destination websites. That's all about increasing direct booking and having channels that can give you reach that are still direct bookings, that, you know, use your terms and conditions, where you receive the money up front, where you receive the data, and so on. And it's, you know, super easy to join. So if your system is connected, you know, it's very easy just to switch on Tourism Exchange within the system you use, or, you know, of course, we have the free tools we mentioned, and it is free to connect. As I mentioned before, there are no subscription costs or upfront fees. We do have a 2.5% fee, but that is for like a pay-as-you-go service for bookings. Yeah, and then there's a quote from that case study I mentioned before, really just to emphasize, I suppose, the value of the platform and supporting that business in taking their, you know, next steps into building their business and operations. And then, you know, just, I suppose, just to finish, to say that, you know, we really feel like this is a starting point for us. There's a lot of exciting opportunities out there. It's about making sure we're prioritizing the right ones that are important to businesses in Northern Ireland, and whether that's working with travel trade, as I mentioned, or bringing other routes to market to the country, then, you know, that's what we're really excited to do. Yeah, and I suppose finally, just to say that we have an onboarding team that are available to help anybody that wants to have a individual conversation, that's interested in joining, that would like help getting online and bookable, and also if you're interested and you want to sign up and get connected, then, you know, just pop to our website and there's a get started link there that you can follow, and we'll help you along the way. And I think that's it, really. Paul, I don't know if you have anything else to add, or we could just break to some questions.
Yes, Dan, that's great, thanks. We are going to make you work a little bit harder this afternoon when we have you, and throw some tough questions at you. There's some questions that I can see coming through on the chat, and what I might do is just take a few seconds just to review those while we throw up a quick little evaluation piece for 5 or 10 seconds, and then we'll jump straight into the questions. Okay, brilliant. Dan, so I think we can hopefully jump straight in then to some of these questions which are coming through. Some are quite specific, as you would imagine, depending on the circumstances of the individual businesses, and it could be that it might be easier to pick some of these up offline and have a conversation around the particulars of some of these issues. But I think a common theme really that is coming through on the questions is just around cost and commission, and it might be worth just reiterating some of the points around how the cost model works for TXGB?
Yeah, so the cost model is that we charge 2.5% as a service fee on a pay-as-you-go model, only payable at a point that a booking has occurred. We collect that from you on a monthly basis through an invoice and ideally through a direct debit mandate to keep things simple and automated. And there are no other subscription costs, and I know we've discussed or been asked in the past about whether there's any minimum number of bookings you'd have to have with the platform or any exclusivity or anything like that. And of course, none of those kind of rules apply. This is very much an open, agnostic, do as you please, pay as you go model that has no commitment from us to you at all, and no subscription costs and no setup fees or no support fees.
Brilliant, thanks Dan. Is it possible to link your site availability with free to book? And this particular business operator is connected to several sites through free to book, so would be interested in the Discover Northern Ireland option at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we recognise that free to book is a really important system, and we're absolutely keen to have a connection with free to book. That's an example of the system where they tend to do the integration work, and we've had conversations with the team there, and really, I suppose, just waiting for it to be a priority from their perspective. It would really benefit, like any scenario like this where systems are not connected. Those system providers tend not to want to hear that need from us, because we're a system provider, trying to encourage them to connect to our platform. So we'd benefit from any positive encouragement that you can offer to those partners to get involved and integrate. But yeah, we'd love an integration with free to book, but unfortunately, it's not yet on the roadmap.
Okay, thanks, Dan. I have another point here. I use Evio management suite. Can that be facilitated through TXGB?
So Avio is a booking engine, and so commonly I think Avio users tend to have a property management system underneath that or alongside that. But I might be wrong, and I'm happy to again talk to Avio business, Avio rather, about an integration. But yeah, I mean, it's a good example of another one where we'd love to have an integration there. It's just about making sure that it's the right thing for the businesses and that there's enough interest. And if there is, then we'll make it happen. Yeah.
Okay. I currently use Super Control as a channel manager and have done for 10 years. Is there help for transferring over to TXGB? I would suggest that's probably speaking to the onboarding support, Dan, that your team can provide.
Yeah, I think the first thing to say there is that we're hopeful of an integration with Super Control. So if you are using that, we'd ideally want to be able to offer that connection. Similarly, that's a great connection that we'd want to have on the platform. In lieu of that, if you're looking at alternative systems, then of course we can suggest others, kind of similar type platforms that are available on our system that might be an equivalent representative system that you could use. Our TXGB itself is the channel manager tool looking to connect to different systems. TX Load tool is available, but it's a relatively simple tool feature-wise, and so if you are a self-catering organization and you want very specific features in that space, then it might be that having a dedicated self-catering type system is the right thing. And we've of course connected to a number of prominent options in that space, so we can for sure help with those conversations.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Can the availability calendar be shown on Discover Northern Ireland without paying any commission or costs? How would this operate? I think in that regard, it's probably about reiterating the point that there will be no costs incurred until a booking is actually made.
Yeah, that's right. So you can share your availability calendar to the DNI website, but in doing so, you are going to set up that kind of payment option as a feature. So there are you can't yes, you can connect your availability, but there are no fees from a Discover perspective, and of course just the 2.5% from us. So there isn't a way of just connecting your calendar without enabling the booking side, because what we're creating there is a bookable journey for consumers. And so there isn't an option to have just a calendar without that kind of call to action to book.
Okay.
But hopefully, I mean, what I would say is, there's real value in the price point there, I think, compared to other online options. So hopefully you see that as well.
Quite a specific question, Dan, from a 4-star self-catering property in Port Stewart. We have no website. We get a lot of bookings through word of mouth and repeat bookings. We also work with 2 online platforms, Airbnb and holidaylettings.co.uk. We don't have a Stripe account. We want to keep things simple. In the past year, we've had approximately 180 nights bookings. What are the benefits of TXGB to us?
Okay, that's a great question. Thank you. I suppose first of all, you're obviously working with Airbnb and holiday lettings. So I'm assuming that means you're managing 2 calendars on Airbnb and on the TripAdvisor equivalent, which will be an admin challenge. And so we can offer support in centralizing your calendar into one tool that can then link to your Airbnb and TripAdvisor or holiday lettings type connection. Sorry, just to say that we are in the process of completing an integration to TripAdvisor that will cover that connection. That wasn't on the list, but that is something that we are about to launch. And then, of course, your option there of adding additional channels. If you don't want a Stripe account, no, that's fine, but that would mean that you couldn't take direct bookings through our tool on your own website, and you couldn't use the Discover Northern Ireland website. So that would be the limitation of not having a Stripe account or not signing up for a Stripe account. But to say that actually it's very straightforward to sign up for Stripe, and we're happy to talk anybody through that. But it's not an obligation to have Stripe just to have TXGB. There are other channels that you can work with that we're not managing merchant services for. So, on top of Airbnb and TripAdvisor, you might look at Booking.com or Expedia and other channels that might be a good fit for you. So there are ways to kind of look at options to grow your business. But yeah, there's I mean, what would be probably a good idea is to have a one-to-one chat with our team and just deep dive into that a little bit. But we're happy to help.
Yeah, great idea, Dan. Thank you. When there is free cancellation on a site, for example, Booking.com, do we get charged for the booking and for the cancellation?
So you're only charged once for the TXGB fee is only charged once. So I think that's saying, would you be charged twice? Because what we'll be doing there is processing a Booking.com booking through your system, and then also processing a cancellation into your system as well to make sure that booking is cancelled. But we only charge once in that space.
Okay. We have a business, Dan, that does not use Stripe, and they're asking, is it possible to use another system?
At the moment, we're only integrated with Stripe for merchant services through our direct payment model. It is not out of the question that we will integrate with other payment providers in the future. It's just that we haven't got that on our roadmap as an immediate thing that we'll be looking to do, and I suppose also just to acknowledge that there are many merchant services gateways. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what others are a priority. But yeah, at the moment it's just Stripe that you can use to get access to those opportunities.
Okay. What if a guest cancels their stay, and do fees get refunded?
No, if a guest, well, I suppose it depends on the channel. So it depends on so if you're working with you're working on the Discover Northern, if I'm assuming this is related to the DN Discover website and bookings through direct payment. So we're not able to, we don't control the cancellation policies there because it's a direct booking that you're receiving into your bank account through Stripe. But you can define your own cancellation policies there, because we actually, it's a direct booking with your own system rather than something that any third party is kind of determining or defining.
Okay. If you have channel manager connections, are there additional benefits of reverse connecting via channel manager to TXGB?
I suppose what we're saying there is, I'm not entirely sure
I mean, perhaps that's one, Dan, we could take offline and just pick up with whoever has posted that question, maybe just to better understand the specific point and get an answer on that.
There is about having two channel managers, maybe a similar point. So around, I know somebody's asked, sorry Paul, to jump in just because it might be relevant. If TXGB is a channel manager, what is the advantage of being linked to two channel managers like Super Control? And I suppose that point there is all around diversifying your distribution channels and getting access to new opportunities. So, again, we're not looking to replace your Super Control system in this context. We're looking to supplement it or run alongside it. We will give you access to other channels that maybe Super Control can't, and in doing so, that would be the value you'd get out of the platform. Nobody's expecting you, for example, if you're a Super Control user using Airbnb, to move your Airbnb connection across to TXGB. That's not something we'd ever try and encourage or otherwise. We really just want you to get the best value out of using the platform that is relative to your own needs and your own setup.
Is there an integration fee with Oracle?
Yeah, I mean, Oracle as a connection does have fees, but we are also in the process of looking at an integration to their new cloud-based platform, which is a slightly different model. So that would be a useful one to pick up offline and explore on the track. But yeah, we know that Oracle themselves have fees per connection that you link to. So we're hoping to be able to work around that with this new integration.
My properties are advertised on Booking.com and Airbnb. Will TXGB bring everything onto one platform for me?
Yeah, that's exactly what one of the kind of main benefits of this is. Looking at, if you're separately managing Airbnb and Booking.com, we're able to give you a calendar diary tool or recommend one of our partner systems that we can then link both of your Booking.com and Airbnb accounts to, and thus reduce any risk of or remove any risk of double booking. And it's all live availability sharing and with pricing as well. So there's no risk of, if you're doing that, you've got multiple calendars that are updating in different online websites back into your central TXGB calendar. So yeah, that's absolutely the use case here.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Would TXGB be suitable for a private estate where accommodation is only bookable for private events?
Sorry, Paul, just repeat that for me again.
Yeah, of course. So would TXGB be suitable for a private estate where accommodation is only bookable for private events?
Okay, so I mean, there isn't a limitation on operating in that way where you've got I suppose reduced levels of availability and only for certain dates, because it's calendar based and you're only going to show in availability when you have availability to offer. It really depends on what your needs are in terms of the sort of booker that you're looking to get in front of in those cases. And so probably a conversation to have just around the sort of events you're hosting, how you currently access people to book the accommodation in those cases, and what are your current challenges around that. I mean, in all cases, what we look to try and do is understand people's needs and their challenges and how they're currently working, and help tailor TXGB platform to meet those needs. So yeah, something to follow up on for sure.
I think it's an interesting point, Dan, that really no two scenarios are the same, and lots of different businesses will have different situations that they're working through. And I think really the important point there is that a conversation with your team can help us find the best path through those situations and get a solution hopefully that works.
Yeah, exactly that. I think we recognise a big part of this, that everyone is different and needs are very different. So we are here to have those one-to-one conversations and take things from there.
I have a great question here, Dan, and I suppose it really cuts to the heart of what we're trying to do. How would TXGB simplify my life in the light of the background information given? So this is your elevator pitch moment.
I think I think that actually has come from the person who asked the question before about having a Airbnb and a TripAdvisor account. And I think ultimately what we're saying here is, if you need to access more consumers, we can help you do that and help you make not add additional effort and risk into your day-to-day. Of course, there is a bit of work to do at a setup phase where you've got to join the dots up to connect those systems, but our team is here to guide you on that path and make that as pain-free as possible. But a lot of the time your limitations are based on the risk around being on multiple channels and so on. So in that scenario, we just want to give you a platform to access more opportunities without additional headache, and that's definitely something that we can help with. And but again, it's all about everybody's individual needs and the sorts of things that are interesting to them, the sorts of commission thresholds that you operate in, and all that good stuff. So I would just say, this is not, everybody's different. This is not a one size fits all, but we do believe there's an opportunity for everybody to get value out of the platform in one way or another. And if you don't want to do any of those big kind of OTA connections and you just want to focus on direct booking, then I'd strongly urge you to hook up a Stripe account and get bookings on the Discover website, because that is going to be a really if all the chips are down, that is a great example of something that's new and unique and completely free in terms of commissions relative to other kind of similar type channels. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. I think we're nearly there. Does TXGB place 2.5% booking fee on every booking? So for example, if booked on Airbnb booking.com and comes across.
Yeah, so we do charge our fee is 2.5% per booking on all bookings. So we hope that we recognise that if you're paying commissions to those channels already, that you need to understand how that impacts your margins. Having an addition, if you, for example, you're already booking on booking.com or somewhere, and you're then introducing TXGB in, we recognise that's an additional fee that you need to be able to understand and build into your cost model. But we hope that the value around being able to also access low commission channels, to be able to reduce the headache and risk of managing separate diaries and everything in between, is a way of is good value along the road.
Yes. There's a question about super control. I think we've already addressed that. If a property with a Stripe account is using TXGB on Airbnb, who takes the payment?
Okay, so yeah, just to clarify on that point, the Stripe integration with TXGB is only for our direct payment partners, and that would be in this case just the Discover website and the council websites and so on at this point. So if you're receiving a booking via Airbnb and that's an integration that you're connecting through us, then Airbnb is handling that payment directly. So our Stripe account is not involved there. So I know that can feel complex, but I suppose ultimately think that all of those third-party resale websites like Booking.com, Airbnb, etc., they're all the customer is booking with them directly, and you're receiving a price based on the terms that you've agreed in terms of payment terms and commissions with those channels. The difference is when Stripe is in play is where it's one of our partnership channels that is using our direct payment model, where you're receiving the money directly from consumer and it's a direct booking with you, and that's where Stripe is used.
Thanks, Dan. And last question, and I think we've covered this to a point anyway. Could Dan please clarify that the 2.5% commission is charged when cancellations are made on Booking.com, Airbnb platforms? Is this non-refundable, as this is common on these platforms due to their cancellation policies?
Yeah, so we charge our 2.5% on the month that a booking is made. So though that fee stands, and because we're also we're managing that booking into your system, and we're also managing the cancellations, and so it is a service fee in that regard. So yeah, as standard, that isn't a refunded fee.
Okay, thank you, Dan. I think that's all of the questions that we've received, but what we'll do offline is just take another pass through all of those questions and make sure that we have addressed them all. And if there are any that we've missed, we'll obviously pick up with the person who has posted those questions. I think in terms of next steps, really, that's the webinar for today. If TXGB and taking that next step and onboarding to the platform is of interest, the next best step really to take at this point is to use the information on the screen now to engage with Dan's onboarding team, and they will schedule a call with you and work through any of the very specific questions that have come up this afternoon. But outside of that, I'm obviously available as well if anyone wants to have a further discussion about the Discover Northern Ireland aspect of it as well. So look, I suppose to wrap it up, I'm very appreciative of everyone's time, because I know how busy everyone is as we get closer to Easter and into the summer. So hopefully you found the session this afternoon to be helpful. And if you are interested in onboarding to TXGB, please pick up with Dan and the team, and they're standing by to support. Thanks very much.
Thank you.